Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Arnoldo Reyes, and I'm the Vice President and Head of Digital Partnerships, FinTech, and Ventures at Visa Latin America. Today, I'm going to walk you through a couple slides that talks about the rise of digital commerce in our region. There's no doubt that the pandemic in 2020 had incredible effects in every part of everyone's lives. And most importantly, at Visa, we've been taking a look at what those impacts have been in our sector and in our industry. So today, I'll walk you through a couple slides to share some of the information that's important for you guys to think about how you think about your business moving forward, how you think about developing new products moving forward, solutions and experiences for your clients. So we'll get started. So there's undeniably a fact, which is that over the last 12 to 18 months, the world has digitized itself, not necessarily by design, but by default. And what we've seen is that the global pandemic has really accelerated the adoption of digital technologies in our region. Technologies that were originally very much analog based and lifestyles were very analog based in our regions, to now a consumer and a small business and a business lifestyle that is very much focused on digital. And what we have seen through VisaNet data, through our engagements with clients, through our partnerships, and through our global perspective that we have as a company, has been that there has been quite a few emerging themes in our industry, and particularly themes that have not only impacted and influenced the payments and financial services industries, but rather themes that have been very pervasive across multiple industries. And some of the ones that we have seen over the last year have been establishing or expanding the digital footprint of business. And as I said, there is no question that if businesses were not prepared digitally or didn't have a presence digitally in the last year, more than likely they were suffering a lot given the impacts of the pandemic and the economic impact and consumer behavior. So this is one of the most important themes, which is how have companies established or put their footprint in the digital arena? And we'll talk a little bit more about this. The second theme that we've seen is there's been an increasing rate of migration, as I said, from an analog-based consumer lifestyle to one where digital is pervasive. When we think about the accessibility and the cost of smartphones, which every day goes down in price, and the availability of affordable data plans in our markets, there's no question that the smartphone is becoming the control remote to people's lives. And within the smartphone, there's no question also that apps and the technologies embedded in these smartphones are becoming the way or enabling new forms of payment, new forms of commerce, new forms of entertainment, and so much more. So we'll continue seeing that migration from activities that were person-based, human-based, to more digitally based. The third one, which is an interesting one because it results a lot on two factors. One is governments obviously imposed a lot of restrictions over the last 12 months or so in terms of individuals being able to go out, congregate, go to restaurants, and so forth. So we saw an emergence of these regulatory or restrictive policies in many countries, which led people to have to buy online, everything from supermarket items all the way to a growth in e-commerce. And what we've seen as a result of that is an incredible focus and investment in last mile delivery and logistics, particularly companies like Rappi or companies like Ugo or local companies that are on-demand food delivery or grocery delivery companies and e-commerce logistics providers are beginning to build the platform on which that distribution of those goods and services will be based on in the future. So again, we continue to see the emergence and how important these last mile delivery companies have been during the pandemic and will be post-pandemic. The fourth point is all about leveraging multifunctional platforms. And really what this means is super apps. And there's no question that super apps have been one of these fascinating topics for a long time across Latin America and the Caribbean. The challenge is that we really haven't seen the true genesis or the true creation of a super app, like the ones we see in Asia Pacific or in India. up until platforms like Rappi, which operate in 10 markets in Latin America, or platforms like Ugo, which operate in Central America and the Caribbean. And these multifunctional platforms are enabling consumers and businesses to do a variety of commerce and financial transactions from one single app. So I think we'll continue seeing a consolidation of all of that. From a financial services perspective, whether you're a bank, for example, banks have been looking at how to become super apps or financial super apps. And I think we'll continue seeing banks add additional services onto their traditional online banking or apps that they have installed on people's smartphones. And the fifth one is one that is personally very gratifying to see, which is a significant appetite for global investors into Latin America. And the reason for why this is happening is because Latin America, very similar to Southeast Asia, has a lot of these interesting dynamics: large population, digitally natives for the most part, young demographic, lack of payments and commerce infrastructure, and a lot of incumbents that sometimes haven't been the best at innovating. But what this is driving is this appetite from global venture capital funds to invest in entrepreneurs and invest in new businesses that are driving the future of payments, commerce, retail, entertainment, and so forth. So we'll continue seeing this, and we've certainly seen an uptick in the amount of venture capital dollars going into fintech and into e-commerce in Latin America and the Caribbean over the last couple of months. And with all of this, we talk about all of the different business models that are getting disrupted, and not necessarily in financial services, but in all aspects of people's lives. And the reality is that most, if not all, business models are powered obviously by some form of commerce or an exchange of value of goods or services between one party and the other. But as more segments of the economy, or the greater economy, are connected to the web, to smartphone technology, to development resources, we're going to see just an acceleration of all of the different industries that are going towards that digital aspect. And a couple of the industries, some may be surprising, some may not. But fintech, for example, continues to be one of the most highest growth industries or sectors in Latin America and the Caribbean. Financial services continues to be a segment that is still not optimized. There continues to be hundreds of millions of people across the region that still don't have access to a bank account, cannot send a payment to a friend or a relative, pay too much to receive a cross-border remittance, and all of these other things that have to do with basic financial services. And fintech, in an extent, and many times in partnership with existing industry players like banks and acquirers and large merchants, are making that happen. But it continues to be a segment where a lot of investment is going towards. The second is social commerce. I think as Latin American and Caribbeans, we have this natural entrepreneurial DNA in us, and social commerce has always existed. That social commerce has quickly moved on to digital platforms. And particularly what we've been seeing is that messaging apps, for the most part, have been that channel for social commerce. So whether it's using WhatsApp to sell goods or services, what we've now been seeing is a transition of WhatsApp to other type of platforms, such as Instagram, where small or micro sellers or even big companies can sell their products and market their products. What we haven't seen typically is that these platforms embed a payment functionality. So if you think about someone, for example, in Trinidad and Tobago that is selling arts and crafts via Instagram, typically what happened is the buyer of that good would have to go to a bank, make a deposit in the seller's account, take a picture of that deposit receipt, and then pick up or have the merchandise shipped. And what we're going to begin seeing now, and we've already seen this in more developed markets, is a truly native experience on social commerce, where individuals will be able to buy and interact and ultimately make that payment all within that same social commerce platform. The third is insurance. Insurance is one of the areas within the fintech segment that is being disrupted immensely in Latin America. And this is because it's a very profitable segment in general. And there are ways to digitize the entire insurance experience, all the way from obtaining a policy to paying premiums to receiving payouts when you're a beneficiary of a claim. So insurance has been one of those segments where we're seeing a lot of innovation, a lot of funding. And within fintech, this is called insurtech, and it is beginning to grow more and more, as it already has in a lot of emerging and developed markets. Real estate is a sector that we've typically seen change a lot in developed markets. We're going to continue seeing this in emerging markets as well, which is the ability for new platforms to exist that will allow individuals to see homes, to inspect homes, and to make some form of initial payments on that real estate. The creator economy is perhaps one of the most exciting opportunities that I see, and I think we see as a company. And the creator economy is essentially the concept or this theme given to the fact that anyone in the world today can be their own business. So if I'm a graphic artist, maybe I sell my graphic arts on the side or at night and I make additional income. If I happen to be a cook, I can sell recipes online. If I happen to be a musician, I can create music and sell my music online. Eventually, every single person around the world can become a creator of content, of entertainment, and of any other thing. And those creators will need a platform on which to sell their goods or services, and most importantly, an easy and safe and reliable way to collect payments. And we've seen amazing things happen in the creator economy and the growth of this segment. In fact, just in the US, a company called Patreon, which facilitates payments and is a platform for creators to monetize their content or their goods or their services, tripled its valuation in just the last couple months. And we'll see more and more of this. And we're beginning to see it in Latin America with all of this growth of the influencers on social media and how they begin monetizing, and how we as an industry can think about what's the easiest and safest and quickest way for these creators to receive a digital payment. Grocery on demand is, again, one of these sectors that has surged during the pandemic, mainly because of restrictions at the local level of people being able to leave their homes and congregate and go to supermarkets and so forth. And what we've seen is a significant growth in on-demand platforms. And these are platforms that deliver items that one would traditionally go to the supermarket to obtain, or items from a nearby pharmacy, or ordering food from restaurants. And this grocery on-demand sector, per se, has been one of the key reasons that millions of restaurants and small businesses around Latin America and the Caribbean have been able to survive the pandemic, because they have a digital and physical channel to distribute their products via platforms across the markets. Fitness is an interesting area because when you're in a lockdown for a long period of time, there's really not a lot to do outdoors. So what we've seen globally, actually, has been the emergence of a lot of fitness-related and wellness-related platforms. And I think as consumers, what we've seen during the last 12 months that most of us have been in a lockdown is individuals paying a little bit more attention to their health and wellness. And fitness has been radically transformed. We've seen the incredible success that companies like Peloton and Tonal and some of these other fitness brands, digital fitness brands, have had during the pandemic. And more than likely, people have reimagined what it means to have fitness in the home. And I think we'll continue seeing this moving forward. Again, one of the areas where there's significant investment. Healthcare, very similar to fitness and very similar to grocery on demand, has been something that the pandemic has really accelerated in the terms of digitally delivered healthcare. So telemedicine, which was growing already, completely accelerated. Platforms that help people with mental health and such similar platforms throughout. Platforms that help people get better sleep, and apps, and all of these things around healthcare are now delivered, built, and consumed in a digital means. And at the end of the day, whether it's fintech, insurance, creator economy, real estate, or healthcare, there's always a payment transaction that needs to happen. And that's why it's relevant to mention some of these sectors. One of the other areas that has come to be top of mind during the last year or so has been improving customer experiences for digital commerce. And when we think about digital commerce, it's not only the traditional e-commerce type of transactions, but when customers go to a bank app, for example, to check their balance, what does that experience feel like today? Or going on the banking website, or looking at a digital wallet and figuring out what that experience really means. So I think experience is really going to be fundamental, and it's going to need to be something that companies, whether you're a bank, a retailer, a digital merchant, companies will need to make sure that that customer experience is extraordinary from the moment that consumers or businesses are discovering products, are paying for products, are receiving their products, and ultimately are consuming. So there's a lot of focus on themes around delivery and the experience of that delivery, the ability to buy seamlessly, but it all ties to how are we improving the customer experience by having a human touch in a world that is moving very quickly towards a digital one. And some of the themes that we've been seeing in terms of how people are migrating and how those experiences are changing, particularly when a lot of these activities or experiences have been conducted in cash or in person, and what does that look like as they move towards a more digital area. One is paying for subscription-based streaming services. So when you think about the fact that in many markets, individuals that wanted access to a Netflix subscription, for example, or a Spotify subscription, would physically have to go to a convenience store or an agent location nearby, take out physical cash, pay that person, most likely get some type of gift card, go back to their home and enter a code of the gift card or some other related method. That's quickly changing. And we'll continue seeing, particularly in the subscription economy or the subscription space, a lot of focus on enabling people at all levels of the socioeconomic pyramid to be able to access these subscription services. And one of the things that we've been seeing with fintech, a lot of wallets that are popping up and neobanks are actually, one of their key value propositions is in extending a payment credential like a Visa card, which makes it easy for people to top up those wallets or those neobank accounts and use that Visa credential to subscribe to Netflix or Spotify or iTunes or any of the other digital streaming platforms out there. The second experience or theme around this transition towards cash to digital has to do with being able to conduct commerce with the use of virtual assistants. This is something that we began seeing in financial services and in retail a couple of years back with the emergence of chatbots and sort of assisted virtual assistants. We will continue seeing that, and I think as internet and broadband penetration increases in Latin America and the Caribbean, and those commerce experiences are partially shifted from a physical location to an online location, we'll continue seeing a reliance on these tools to drive greater conversion online. The third aspect around migration, again, cash to digital, has been this concept of BOPIS, which in the US and other parts of the world has been, it's buying online, it's pick up in store. And, at least in the US, what we have been seeing, and certainly in other markets in Latin America, I think we've certainly seen some retailers take this approach, which has been enabling their customers to buy something online, to browse, discover products or services, buy them online, and then simply pick them up, whether that is, in the store, getting out of the vehicle, or having someone from the store bring them to the vehicle, which is known as the curbside pickup model. And what we have been seeing is that companies, particularly in the retail space, that are adopting this omni-channel strategy, of which BOPIS is just one of those components, have been doing incredibly well throughout the pandemic. And I think consumers, once they realize the convenience of that shopping experience, will continue leveraging that behavior over the long term. The fourth one is really an interesting one, because if there's one thing the pandemic sort of transformed in everyone, was the fear of germs, right? And we don't look at cash the same. At least I don't. Every time someone now hands me a dollar bill, I think about, oh, does it have COVID, or are there germs on it? And I think what we've seen a little bit of that, but we've also seen, again, this migration towards payment form factors that are completely digital. And as a result, we've seen people tap and pay with mobile wallets. We've seen people with Apple Watches be able to go and tap on a terminal, or Garmin or Fitbit watches that are embedded with a Visa payment credential. So we'll continue seeing this contactless purchasing with wallets, NFC technology adoption across the region. And from a Visa perspective, one of the most interesting things we've seen is this surge in the amount of contactless payments across all of the markets. And that's one of the key reasons that we always tell our clients, and the ecosystem in general, it's incredibly important to offer now products that have a contactless payment capability. And on the Visa side, with our acquirers and with our merchants, we're also working on making sure that all of our acceptance points, or the large majority of our acceptance points in Latin America, are equipped with this contactless technology. Because we believe that once you try contactless, you will certainly never go back to swiping or dipping a card. And the last one is really about, again, it follows on this theme about experiences, and it's invisible payments. And what invisible payments really means is thinking about ways to make the payment experience feel like the person never ever paid. And I think one of the best examples of this is the first time one got into an Uber vehicle, right? You got onto the vehicle, the driver took you to your destination, you simply walked out of the vehicle and you said, wow, that was amazing. I didn't even feel like I had to pay. It was incredibly seamless. And that magic moment of having an invisible payment in the background, which as a consumer, you really didn't feel, really set the tone for everything else. And anytime now that I need to take out a card and swipe it, is really a friction-driven experience, right? So it's all about creating these instant, invisible payment experiences for customers. Now, everything I've talked about, to an extent, was already happening pre-COVID. COVID certainly was a big, spark in accelerating all of these trends that I've been speaking about. But behind the curtain, so to speak, there are technologies that are empowering and powering these opportunities across Latin America and the Caribbean. And I'll just touch briefly on a couple of these. These are technologies that we have been investing in over the last couple of years, and we will continue investing in quite significantly over the coming years. We believe that ultimately consumers, our clients, and all the players in the ecosystem will benefit as these technologies become a little bit more mainstream, and in the end, allow payment experiences, commerce experiences to be a little bit more seamless and secure. So the first one is artificial intelligence. This is, somewhat of a no-brainer. Artificial intelligence is everywhere today, and in a lot of places you may not realize it, but artificial intelligence will continue to be a key component of technology moving forward, and particularly on the Visa side. As an example, we are using artificial intelligence in certain products and solutions we have developed in VisaNet, our network, for example. Machine learning, which is very aligned to similar concepts of artificial intelligence. What we'll continue seeing is investment in this area to make every interaction that websites or apps have with the end customer, they will get smarter and smarter and smarter. And a perfect example of this is Amazon. Anytime that you go and you buy on Amazon, after a certain amount of time, Amazon's algorithm has already learned what categories of products you like, in fact, what colors you may like, or what categories you may not be thinking about, but Amazon will recommend, and most likely you'll say, you know what, yes, I actually do need this, right? So artificial intelligence, machine learning are very much tied together, and we'll continue seeing a lot of investment here. Chatbots, as I mentioned, in the form of traditional chatbots, but also virtual assistants, will continue being of great demand. And I think when you think about it as not necessarily a cost perspective, but a customer experience investment, that's where I think the opportunity lays. So from a bank perspective, if you're a customer and you need to physically call a bank or visit a bank branch to inquire about a consumer loan, if you can imagine a world where you'll go into the online banking and you'll be able to work with a virtual assistant to find information, but also to complete documentation, underwriting, and ultimately disbursement of a loan. Blockchain has been, I would say, incredibly top of mind over the last year. As if you think about and you look at all of the investments that have gone into crypto-related infrastructure and companies over the last year, it's truly impressive. We are, I think, beginning to look at blockchain, both as a company, but also as an industry, a little bit more aggressively, and really trying to figure out where is there a mass opportunity to leverage blockchain. And with blockchain, you know, I'll dip into a little bit into the crypto space, and I do want to say a couple words on crypto. There's been a lot of news recently around crypto and Visa, and we have, you know, as a company, our goal has always been to move money, to move value, regardless if it's in what currency or location or form factor. So we are looking at that space very interestingly enough, because we are essentially wanting to extend our capabilities to new segments, new markets, and it's an area that will continue getting a lot of attention and investment from Visa, both from a product development perspective and a technology perspective. Tactile and facial recognition, as the world moves towards digital, so do the fraudsters. And there is an increased need for security, fraud prevention platforms, authentication of users. And with all of this comes technologies such as facial recognition and tactile recognition. And those will continue to be, I believe, a significantly key component of our industry, but also retail and all the other industries out there. Voice recognition is a very interesting one. You know, personally, I believe that voice will become an operating platform in the future. Voice technology is perhaps the most seamless of all. If you think about an experience with some of these smart home devices like Amazon Alexa, for example, where you could have the experience of eventually talking to a device and telling the device to move money from one account to another account, or to send money to someone else, or to pay your credit card bill. The opportunities are endless when it comes to voice anchored technologies. And similar to the purely digital aspects, with voice you'll also need a lot of those authentication, those security features that I just mentioned. P2p payments, again, global phenomena in developed markets, in some emerging markets. We have seen how quickly P2p platforms have grown. The need to simply send small ticket payments among friends and families continues to be in demand. In some markets, P2p payments are truly domestic remittances between a family member or a friend living in another city and working there and having to remit funds back to another person in a different city in that same country. Visa has been at the forefront of enabling this. And specifically in Latin America, we've had two very successful programs in Peru, where it's in the millions of customers. And we have seen how those type of use cases both are something that consumers are demanding, but also our technologies such as Visa Direct can really power. Tokenization falls around the same lines around security and all of this aspect of digital commerce. And as the world becomes more digital, you know, the traditional credit card number should become more irrelevant. And what tokenization does through Visa's technology is really take away that security risk of a credit card number on file. And some of you may have read recently that Visa has issued its 2 billionth token in the last 12 months. So that plays a lot to all of the consumer demand for digital platforms and digital technologies out there. And we continue to invest significantly on tokenization technology, and which is why we encourage our clients in the region to be Visa token service ready, to be able to take the opportunity to serve their customers as their customers go out and access digital entertainment and digital services and so forth. Contactless and NFC, I spoke about this earlier, the amazing growth we've seen in Latin America in the last 12 months of people not wanting to touch cash and simply tap a payment credential. The experience is truly magical if you've never had the opportunity to just do a contactless payment. A lot of investment here. We've done amazing work with local governments, particularly in urban mobility, and making it very easy in the Dominican Republic, for example, to be able to tap a card on urban transport and be able to basically hop on the bus, right? So we believe there's so many different use cases for contactless and NFC, and this is two things. This is one, making sure payment credentials that your clients have today are contactless ready, and also Visa working with all of its ecosystem partners and making sure that all of the 70 million acceptance points globally at some point will have the ability to accept the contactless payment. IoT, Internet of Things, is one of these sort of very high level themes that we've been talking about as a company and as an industry for many years. The reality is that in Latin America and the Caribbean, there is still, I believe IoT is still very in a nascent stage. And a lot of the applicability of IoT still is more on the government and industrial sector per se, not so much yet on the direct to consumer experiences. But we continue to look at the space and work heavily in that area to identify where we could potentially add value as a company along with our clients. And marketplace capabilities, this plays a little bit into the creator economy theme, into the on-demand marketplace theme. Companies that are building platforms and technologies to create marketplaces will also be a key component of commerce growth, commerce and payments growth over time. The reality is a lot of industries are highly fragmented, where you have millions of different sellers and buyers, and the ability to box that into one single platform that delivers a uniform customer experience, a seamless and secure payments experience, is something that will continue growing. And we've seen this already in certain markets in Latin America, where you have massive commerce marketplaces driving efficiencies across the ecosystem. A couple tips in terms of how to help create a digital commerce powered business model. Whether you're a bank or a retailer or an acquirer, what we like to think about are a couple things, given everything that's gone on. One is, building and optimizing omni-channel. There is really no need for people to physically go somewhere now to be able to access products or services. And what we've seen is the most successful retailers and financial institutions globally have quickly pivoted towards making sure they have a complete omni-channel experience for their clients. And I was making an example earlier about someone having to go into a bank branch to, have a discussion and find information around obtaining a loan product. Banks today should have multiple touch points or channels by which these customers can find, can engage, and can ultimately consume those financial products and services. Digitizing the discovery to delivery journey is all about figuring a way to make or to create an experience where your customers don't necessarily have to have a human interaction whatsoever. And if you think about the ability to buy something or find information on something completely online, and ultimately go through that entire journey, and then purchase the product digitally and have it delivered and have zero human interaction as an option, that is certainly something that we continue to see. Customers have found the experience of digital in many cases significantly better than having to interact with individuals. The third is enabling magic moment payments experience. I spoke a little bit about this earlier, but it's how do we create as an industry payments that are seamless, that are enabled by securely storing and transferring those digital payment credentials among devices and among platforms. And if I have my my credit card or debit card stored in a digital wallet, it should be seamless for me to move that payment credential to any other digital platform that I want to consume. Fourth is expanding beyond borders. One of the lifelines that a lot of businesses around the world found during the pandemic was the ability to find platforms that enabled them to go online and enabled them to sell their goods or services online to international markets. And I think we'll continue seeing a lot of this. Platforms such as like Shopify, have enabled millions and millions of businesses over the last 12 months to move from a physical location and now establish a digital storefront. And by doing so, they've basically eliminated borders. So there is this concept of borderless commerce occurring. And we believe that in Latin America and the Caribbean, through some of the partnerships that Visa has in place today, we will continue helping those local businesses essentially export their knowledge, their products, their services to international markets. And the fifth one is a continued theme, and it shouldn't really be one that was a result of the pandemic. It should be something that we all keep top of mind. Customer experience ultimately wins the game. There are hundreds of digital products and platforms out there. Not all of them have achieved the same success, and the ones that have achieved the same success have understood that customer experience continues to be the soul of what makes a company successful. Technology is the enabler that has given those companies the ability to reach that desired state of customer experience. And what I tell people is, it seems the world is going digital so fast, where companies are so focused on digital that they forget sometimes the human aspects of commerce or payments. And it's important to keep that in mind, because there is truly no automatic disconnect between a personal interaction and a digital interaction. But as you think about all of these digital touch points with your clients, leverage Visa, certainly as we practice human-centered design and some of these concepts that are critical to design those digital experiences. It is by far and will continue being, I would say, one of the levers for success moving forward. Some of the tips that we have told our clients, whether you're an issuer, an acquirer, merchant, and these are tips that we've sort of developed in response to a lot of the data that we've seen over the last year, or more than the last year, actually. A lot of the interactions we've had with clients, a lot of the interactions we've had with some of our digital partners, with fintechs, with e-commerce startups, with investors, just globally, as we think about, if we had a couple things to tell our clients, what would be at the top of the list? For our issuers, we would encourage them to reimagine the role of what it really means to be a bank, and an issuer in particular. And an issuer is more than just issuing a Visa payment credential. What we've seen is customers are now moving towards financial institutions or financial services brand that really talk to them, that talk to their aspirations, and more than issuing a card or launching a financial product, really have that customer's aspirations in mind. And there's companies that have been very successful in the US, mainly in the fintech segment, that have said, we're a credit card company, but actually our goal is really to help you save money for retirement. And those type of messaging that type of role is what we are thinking about when we tell our clients, reimagine your role within people's lives, right? And that really goes much deeper than just a statement. It goes into product development. It goes into what channels those products will be delivered by. It goes into marketing, into your positioning, to so many different things, right? So I encourage all of you to think about, how do we reimagine the role in a post-COVID world? Doubling down on technology. This continues to be, you know, a no-brainer, I would say. Technology is what is going to power our industry and has been powering our industry for many years. Technology shouldn't and should never be seen as an expense. It should be seen as an investment in driving growth. So we encourage, the exploration of new technologies, work with Visa closely. We obviously have an amazing vantage point into everything that's going on, both in the traditional banking segment, but also with all of the partnerships and all of the engagements we have with next-gen players. We'd be able to bring a lot of those insights and give indications on what we believe are technologies worth investing in, and drive meaningful partnerships. This has been an amazing rallying cry of the industry for the last couple of years. In the beginning, so to speak, there was this mindset of fintechs were these barbarians at the gates, trying to destroy banks and take away their customers. And I think very, very much what has changed over the last 24, 36 months is traditional financial institutions, which have amazing assets, which a lot of fintech companies will never have found that really it's about growing the pie and expanding the ecosystem and giving more inclusiveness to populations that today may not have a financial service or product. And what we have seen is the best-in-class issuers around the world are investing, are acquiring, and are partnering with new technology players. And we've been at the forefront of that across Latin America and the Caribbean as well. For our acquirer clients, as you think about the needs of a merchant, those needs have emerged significantly, even pre-pandemic days. Being able to accept a payment, for example, is no longer the urgent need. Now, merchants have additional needs, such as obtaining loans based on sales and helping them with managing their business, their bookkeeping, their accounting, their cash flow, their inventory. So, as acquirers, you should think about and look at examples of companies that have done this really well in adding more to your, today to the offering. And that's what we think is going to be very powerful. For many years, and perhaps even to this day, the acquiring business is driven by distribution and also by pricing. We believe that the best companies out there are focused more on the value that they are bringing, the payments acceptance capability, but also the availability to provide capital to those merchants, the availability to provide smart enterprise tools to those merchants and so forth. So really building the entire stack of solutions. And we've seen companies like Stripe and Square do this amazingly well, where if you think about it, Stripe and Square were born with one function, which was enable merchants to accept digital payments. And from there, their products and their stack has evolved over time, where you have Stripe now offering loans and the availability of fraud management platforms and all of these other things, where pricing doesn't really become the key factor anymore. Reducing path to acceptance. We still have in Latin America and the Caribbean millions and millions of micro merchants or small businesses that do not accept digital payments. So this is a huge untapped area, and focusing on that long tail benefits the entire ecosystem. And we've seen huge success cases of companies in different parts of Latin America go out and reach those millions and millions of small merchants. So and they've been successful because they've brought down the barriers of being able to accept payments. So if you put yourself for a minute in the shoes of a small merchant, and how intimidating sometimes it may feel to have to go and wait in line and want to ask for a terminal to accept payments and all of the documentation and requirements, that is what some of the new players are reducing. They're taking away all that friction and extending the availability of payments acceptance all the way downstream. Servicing long-tail digital merchants, very similar to what I've been mentioning, which is all about, there's a lot of people that want to sell online, and thinking about what is the simplest product that you can enable that individual or micro business or small business to be able to sell online seamlessly and quickly. And this has been the success, for example, of PayPal in the US, where in a couple minutes, someone can literally start accepting payments online. Enable B2B payments, huge opportunity, perhaps the biggest one in Latin America. If you think about all of the payments between businesses across borders that are happening today, it is certainly an area that, today most of those payments are managed and conducted the traditional way. Visa is taking a look at this, and we have a platform called B2B Connect for cross-border B2B payments. So I encourage you to look at that product and connect with us on that, because it is one of these untapped gold mines across Latin America and frankly across the world. If you're a merchant and you're looking at this webinar, there's a couple things that are very tactical and key. One is digitizing payments. If you've been, sort of focused on cash acceptance, you absolutely need to have a way to accept digital payments online or at a physical location. Having an online presence today is almost like saying, I have an email address. Everyone needs one, even if it's one web landing page with the name of your establishment and operating hours and a phone number. Consumers every day are going online to look for something, and you want to make sure that as a merchant you have some form of digital presence of your business, showcasing products, services, or whatever you sell to customers. Customer experience, this actually falls in all three of these client segments: issuers, acquirers, merchants. Optimizing customer experience, optimizing for Net Promoter Score. Net Promoter Score is a concept invented or thought about many years ago. It is incredibly relevant, especially in a digital world where all it takes is a click for customers to leave your site or leave your storefront. And enable B2B payments. As we said before on the acquirer side, merchants need to be able to figure better ways to make payments between themselves and their suppliers. And we're working a lot on certain initiatives across the region on that. So again, similar to some of the other points, we'd love to hear from you and help you as you think about these specific recommendations. And in summary, I think that the main message of all of this, or the takeaway, is that the pandemic, despite the enormous human loss and how pervasive it has been in all of our lives and certainly across multiple industries, sitting in sort of the financial services sector, and more specifically within the payments industry, we need to think about what is the silver lining, that has come of all of this. And our CFO said something at some point during the pandemic, which was, from every crisis, let's try to find an opportunity. And I think that as an industry, the opportunity is we have found an event that happened globally that has shifted how consumers think about everything, about how they conduct business, about where they shop, how they pay, who they engage with. And that creates an enormous opportunity for us to drive more digital inclusion, to drive more financial inclusion, to make payments more secure, more seamless, ultimately benefiting the end user. And that's what it's about. And hopefully what these last couple slides have demonstrated is that the world has indeed shifted, and it's been a tectonic shift at that. Behaviors are going to evolve as new demographics emerge very quickly. Gen Z and the millennials become a little bit more of an adult age. We will begin seeing how these trends and how digital really becomes critical to living one's everyday life. And financial services, payments in particularly, will continue being an activity that is done globally by everyone, everywhere, at any time. And we encourage you to reach out to us to learn more about these opportunities, to ask for our advice on any of the content that you've seen here. And I want to close by saying that Visa has created a new website called Landscape, and it is within visa.com. And a lot of the content that you saw here, we also have reports, we have additional webinars and videos and more information on all of these themes that I have talked to you about. And you can access that through visa.com. And all of you will be receiving also an email with the link to download the report that accompanies this brief presentation. And as always, I encourage all of you to reach out to us, engage with us. We have an amazing vantage point, and we want to be able to bring those insights to you whenever you'd like. So thank you very much, and I hope all of you and your family stay safe. Thank you.